YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. It's been a few minutes, so we figured we'd unbox this Buffalo.
You didn't even give him a chance to look at the thumbnail.
I know. I gave it away. It's a Buffalo.
Spilling all the beans.
I didn't even know what a Buffalo was before like 5 minutes ago. I should know, but I don't. Is this an F2A?
It is.
Buffalo?
Yes.
Do you want to know why I remembered the F2A? Because it's not an F3A.
Right. And it's not a pattern flying.
Oh, look at that from Durafly. It's the Brewster F2A Buffalo V2. Featuring a new authentic pre-war scheme. Okie dokie. EPO foam. Pre-installed electronics. Pre-applied scale decals and paint.
Yay.
Hand launch and belly land design. Even though they show landing gear, I'm not sure what to think about that. Compact size for easy transport. Looks like servos, 4 9-gram servos. It's a 10.5 prop. It's a pretty big prop. Batteries 2200 3S. Aerostar 28 1200 kV outrunner. And it looks like it's 675 grams. I guess we'll find out. 40 amp brushless CST. That's what I was looking for.
You missed the most important detail. Low build count.
Okay, we'll find out. I'll be the judge of that.
I will be the judge of that.
But listen, we've been impressed with Hobby King stuff lately. I don't know. They've been really turning a new leaf. Except for keeping stuff in stock.
That's because it's good, so people are buying it.
Is that what's happening? Tell us more. Oh, wow. It's not one of those that you have to...
Oh,
whoa, it like unfolds like a shoebox. Maybe they mean a really low piece count.
Like
Like 2. Okay, so far so good. There's a wing.
Okay, it's a good
This
start.
is kind of a weird packaging design.
is.
Look at this. Kind of strange, like taped in the... What the heck kind of packaging is this? This is bizarre.
That is weird.
Okay, we'll just... This Unbox is taking an extra expertise point here to cut this thing out. Actually, I might try to slide it out of the bag instead of cutting it out altogether. All right, so if you guys are brand new to Brian Phillips RC, we unbox them, we build them, we do full radio setup, all that stuff that the other guys just assume you knew how to do. And if you don't know how to do it, we'll help you do it. If you do know how to do it, we will help you watch me do it. And then you can point and laugh. Okay, that's not working. I might need a scissors. Do you like it when people call them a scissors?
A scissors? Yeah,
Do you know anybody who does that? I do. I know people.
Oh. Okay.
I actually know that they're not called a scissors, but...
If I put that in a short, then people are going to assume that you don't know that.
Well, then don't put it in a short.
There you go.
Okay, first things first. Let's talk about color. Yellow, beautiful.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, low piece count. Yeah, right. Not so much. But I must say, pinch hinge, painted silver, beautiful paint finish. I really like this yellow. These are not decals. It's jigged and painted, I think. I don't know. Whatever. It looks really good.
It does.
Okay, so as you can see, we'll just go ahead and put this random thing back over here. I managed to throw the box over here, and I've dropped that on the ground now. Just so you can see, the fuse is like all over. See this?
Yeah.
See, I think it's supposed to be up here, but it looks like it just kind of pooped out of the bag.
Oh.
Let's hope it's not damaged. That is one short fuse.
Yeah, it is.
It's very weird, very different looking plane. I have never heard of this plane before until this thing showed up in the inbox of our email. Okay, it looks like, why is this not done? Who decided not to put this together? I want to talk to those people. Okay, tape. Thank you for putting the tape on. ESC, mounting board, elevator, for rudder.
Okay.
I think what they meant is the 4th servo. Okay. XT60 equipped. Looks like the kind of the cheaper version of that. And then a big thick strap that's like big enough that you could hold a small child in there. It looks like a strike plate here, but it's still painted, so it's gonna lose its paint. And a little bit of splash of silver. Let's see if it comes off with quick wipe. I'm sure it would if I really cared. I don't care though. I'm just gonna leave that as is, okay? So you can see there.
Okay.
Canopy is a little bit of overspray, but it looks good. Nice, secure. Ooh, look, instrument cluster.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
So that looks pretty cool. I mean, you can't see through very good, but it's okay. It's all right. I'm not worried about it. My sack was taped to the paperwork.
Ooh, hate when that happens.
So just to be clear, when they say low piece count, what they mean is there's not that many pieces because they put them in a bag.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no. This was not a low piece count. Hobby King, don't do it again. Well, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but just don't say low piece count because it's a bunch of BS. Look at this. I'm just
if you have a whole sack of stuff.
If you have a sack, if this sack is stuffed this tight.
Yes.
Holy crap, there's sacks of sacks.
I say, if your sack has multiple sacks.
Oh my goodness.
They are labeled, so I guess.
Yeah, but what is there no excuse for putting this crap on? That should already be installed.
Yeah.
Spinner, sure. Prop. Although, to be honest, there really is no excuse. I don't think that the horizontal stabilizer could be on. And I get that that's not installed.
But why are all these
Why are these things not on? Well, this goes under this goes over the top of the.
Oh, okay, fine.
Okay, fair enough. That part, sure.
So 3 pieces. What there should
So
have
if
been.
you want to know the way to Brownfield's RC's heart, don't make me build it.
Right.
Now, there's people that love building RC airplanes, and I'm not trying to take anything away from you, but the truth is, at the end of the day, this is not a freaking ARF. It's a plug and fly. If I wanted an ARF, I would have done exactly what I did, which was reply to an email.
Well, it's probably worse because I don't like it.
Well, she doesn't like it. And if she doesn't like it,
right, you have to deal with
then I have to deal with it. Okay, let's talk about parts though. There's a little bit of stiffness there. It's not bad. The end gets wiggly, but another pinch hinge, guys. Pinch hinge, you know, I must say, I really like the opaque yellow. It's very bright. It's dark. It covers the foam nicely, but it doesn't feel like it's going to peel off, okay? Sometimes when we get painted foam, you'll have the propensity, it feels like there's just nothing there bonding it, and that feels very good, okay? Prop down here. Again, this is the type of thing I don't mind putting on. It's not that big a deal. Looks like it's painted silver, which is weird. They actually painted it. What the heck?
Is it painted?
It's painted.
That is weird.
That is very weird. What the heck? And it's silver, which is also weird, I think. And then they have these little spacer things that comes with the prop. So far, so good. I mean, there aren't like really, honestly, a ton of parts. Sometimes we get a little bit out of shape about things like piece count, but only when they make a thing of it and they mention that it's like, you know, low piece count, and it turns out to be like the Spitfire. And it's like 4,000 steps to build.
Well, this does have the decals applied, so that.
Which, by the way, that Spitfire was awesome.
It is.
Once it was done building, and then they came back and said, oh yeah, just so you know, that was like an older design. You know, we've gotten away from that. And admittedly, the Durafly stuff has gone together pretty easy. This is still a relatively low piece count compared to some of the competitive offerings, but let's be honest, you know, there's still gonna be a few steps to put this together. Is it going to be a deal breaker for the average Joe? I don't think anybody really cares except for Brian Phillips RC.
Yes.
We are the only people on the planet Earth
Just
that care.
me.
Okay, we're going to take a second, clean up, and come right back. All right, so we took a second and just tore into all the sacks and spilled the components out. As you can see, we have the aileron sack here. Has the aileron linkages, a couple of screws, and a couple of nylocks. We have the elevator and rudder, a couple of screws, and a couple of nylocks, as you can see, very small. Okay, and then we have V2 screws that are going to hold the wing on. We also had a Y cable here that we may or may not use because we might set up flaperons on this plane. Not sure yet. And by the way, full disclosure, flaperons on this plane are probably going to be somewhat ineffectual because they're so far outboard. There's a huge space where you would have potentially room for flaps. If you want to cut flaps in, you could easily do it. But let's talk about that for 2 seconds while we're at it. Adding flaperons to a plane is not that hard if it's a plug and fly. And so we might do it anyway, but I just want you to understand with a high dihedral wing and very far outboard ailerons, I've just not found them to be super effective. However, the Catalina is one example of a very far outboard aileron that did work okay with flaperons. We also have a reverse thrust on that. So not sure if we're gonna have a reverse thrust on this or not, but typically with a belly lander, we're not gonna worry about reverse thrust. Even if it were capable, we're not gonna use it. This does not appear to have a thrust reverse channel available for it because as you can see, it's got just a single wire here, okay? If they have thrust reverse, there'll be either a singular plug that's like instead of 3 pins, it's gonna have 1 pin, or it's gonna have a second connector like this. It's just like usually yellow and no red and black because you don't need the power or the ground. You just need the signal for the second channel that would then indicate go into thrust reverse or reverse the condition of the thrust, okay? So we've got our plane stand set up there. As you can see, the plane stand is just resting there, having a good old time. We have shortened it to pair up with the length of this aircraft. This is a Robart plane stand, nothing super special about it, but it is really handy to have a plane stand. If you ever need tools like you see us use on Brian Phillips RC, check out brianphillipsrc.com or bprc.me if you don't want to type a lot of letters, and you can find things in supplies. Okay, that'd be bprc.me/supplies, or just go to bprc.me and then look, there's supplies up on one of the tabs. Okay, we will discuss China glue, CAs, plane stands, servo testers, that sort of crap that you see us use, screwdrivers, but not this holder. No. I made that myself.
Yes.
And it's awesome. Anyway, so here on Brian Phillips RC, we try to show the entire process of a build because we understand there's a lot of steps and intricacies that you have to figure out when you're building a model. Okay, if you're brand new to the hobby, we'll help get you from where you are to where you want to be, which is in the air. Out of the chair, into the air. That's what we like to say. Okay. That being said, we want to make it as painless as possible. And so we do point out pain points like having to put a lot of pieces together on a particular model. This plane looks like it will be a relatively easy plane to build. However, I am thinking there's probably going to be some glue involved because as I can see, there is nothing to attach the tail feathers. So let's start with the tail feathers. In that, this has to go in first and eventually it is going to get contained and held in by a glued together joint, okay? Why do I know that? Because I am guessing. Why am I guessing that? Instead of assuming that it won't be glued together, because I don't know how in the hell it would hold together otherwise, okay? So time for some glue. Why do we like China glue? Camera crew.
Because it's fast and it works.
China glue is one of the best.
Tacky like you.
I know glue. Foam to foam is another option. If you're buying a receiver, we many times recommend Spectrum receivers. You could buy some of this if you buy a Spectrum receiver. If you want to buy some FMS China glue, we'll link to that as well. I don't know why Hobby King doesn't sell it anymore, but they used to sell some mucilage and I would buy it there. And then I got some tubes that were dried out. I was pretty pissed about it. They don't have it on their ticket anymore. I have no idea why. This is the China glue we've used most recently. It is mostly gone, and then we'll move into this new tube. I do prefer China glue slightly over foam to foam, mostly because there are no safety warnings, and so it's obviously safe to eat. I just was kidding. Don't eat it. Just because it looks like a tube of toothpaste doesn't mean you should paste your teeth with it.
It does not.
What is so special about China glue? You want to know why China glue is special? Well, obviously it's because it comes from China. And also you can wipe it off of your human flesh and it will ball up into a small booger, which you can then fling at your friend or enemy. I prefer, oh no, I got it on my wife's counter. This is one of the other reasons why it's good. Look, it's gonna come right off of the counter without any hoopla. If you did that with CA, you'd be, first of all, you'd be in the doghouse. And not even from making your living room look like this.
Yeah.
Okay? So, getting back to the point, the reason they left this linkage off is largely so that you can install the tail. Okay? So, what does the tail consist of? We got a horizontal stabilizer. We've got the vertical stabilizer. You don't have to do the vertical stabilizer. It's part of the fuse. You do have to eventually bond those together, this linkage and that ball link. But we're going to have to center the servo first. So, let's go ahead and get this glued in. Now, if you're super anal retentive and you insist on scratching off the paint, go for it. I'm gonna tell you exactly how many times that's mattered in my entire career of building RC airplanes.
I know the answer. 0.
0. We used to do it, it's a waste of time. In my opinion, I have never had one come out because of it. I had them come out because of crash dang plane.
It's not the glue's fault.
Listen. You don't know that. It could chicken or the egg. But my experience has been, it's not been an issue. I will tell you this, if you have poorly bonded glue, or excuse me, poorly bonded paint, this is what it looks like it to be a cheapskate. You see this? Look at this. Look at this.
Yeah, I don't think mostly gone was the word for that.
Look at that. That's a lot left over. That's like at least one joint. Okay, we're gonna squeeze some more out of there. Oh yeah, see? I try to tell the camera crew, don't wanna be wasteful. See, look. And then we'll get a little bit more right here. Yeah, nothing like a nice slobby joint. Okay, now, if you don't have Q-tips in your kitchen, what's wrong with you, first of all? I have Q-tips in my kitchen, but I'm gonna reuse this Q-tip.
Of course you are.
Yeah, because I don't want to go across the room to get a new one. So I just ripped off the tip, you see? And then I'm just gonna use this to slather that around a little bit, like this. Now you could just use your finger if you're into that sort of thing, but if it's all sticky and gross, then I'm gonna use a Q-tip, just like the doctors. Okay, and throw that in there. Now, the correct way to use China glue would be to glue it and then let it set. Like on that, so it doesn't sit on your wife's counter. And then throw the tube away. It's gone, Brian. It takes me a minute to get over these things.
Sorry.
It's kind of like mourning the loss of my glue tube. I'm gonna take the old tube and I'm gonna pierce the opening. Okay? I'm gonna throw that lid away. Now it's pierced. Okay? Now watch this, guys. Watch this. Where did my little slathering?
You threw your Q-tip away.
Son of a gun. Why did I do that? We're going to get another Q-tip. Now, why do we need Q-tips?
So you don't have to use your fingers?
Wrong. Oh. To clean your ears.
Oh. You're not supposed to use Q-tips on your ears.
Yeah, everybody's like, don't stick them in your ear. Why would you ever need a Q-tip if you weren't going to stick it in your ear hole? Watch this. Because you're going to build an RC airplane, obviously. It's a conspiracy. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Whoa. Don't get it in that other channel, guys. Whoa. Watch this. Whoa. 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 That channel. Watch this. Watch this. Oh, yeah. Spread it right in there where the sun don't shine. I mean, it's only going to not shine there because, oh, thank you for shining that there. You kind of ruined my point, but, you know, I mean, it's okay. If you want to make me look like an idiot on camera on the World Wide Web. All right, so just a little bit more. Whoa, wow. Ooh, don't get so excited there, kid.
Hey, I thought the glue was expensive and you were trying to save it.
Was I?
I don't know.
When did that happen? Well, listen, sometimes you got to slather it all over the opening, all the surfaces. That's what I was trying to explain to the people because they're new to the hobby or something like that, okay? So now watch. Why did we do that? And I only put it on this one little spot because it's easier to tell exactly where it's going to be once you slid it into this crevasse, okay? Now you're probably thinking to yourself, but what about that spot? You'll be able to reach that in a moment. Now watch this, sticky tip right on the edge. Now I have to cram this in there and that's still wet and slippery. And so if it's wet and slippery and you need to penetrate, then what you want to do is, you know, if it's already sticky, it could be a little awkward, but you're just going to cram it in there as hard as you can. Oh yeah, oh boy, almost knocked my plane off. Oh, that was close. Sorry guys. Okay, now that it's in the hole, it's good. Now listen, contact adhesive, like China glue. China. If you let that dry, you're gonna get about that much penetration and it's gonna be stuck for life. Then you'll have to use something like Kicker to undo it. Stay there. Stay there. Don't pause it. I have things to say.
I'm not pausing.
Okay. This is Kicker. This is Instaset. You can use it to delaminate that glue from this surface. But guess what else it will take off? This beautiful paint. Serious law. Okay. So I'm gonna put this here. Don't be tempted, camera crew. Okay. Right there. Don't touch it.
I'm not.
Got my eye on you. All right, so at the end of the day, I need to now stick this. I need to stick that thing, that really long bump into this tight hole, okay? Why are we gonna do that, camera crew? Guess.
Well,
you don't wanna get any stickum on there.
Yeah, I know. So
The seat keeps sliding off the plane stand. What is going on?
you have to get it situated.
Okay, so
Don't
listen.
do too much now.
Just listen, okay? I'm gonna put a little bit on here. See this? Whoa, 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 whoa. You gotta be careful when they're new like this. I'm gonna just slather it down into that deep recess. And then I'm gonna slather it around the edge and I'm just gonna, whoa, really go crazy. But I'm not hitting the far edge. Why? Because there's nothing to be gained by getting that gluey. That's already a little bit gluey right there, folks. Okay, whoa, bubbles, bubbles. Okay, why do we care about China glue here? Because you need to hold that thing on, because otherwise it's gonna look like a moron built your plane. And we don't need your plane to look like a moron built it.
Well,
I'll take one for the team, people. Okay, thank you for keeping that in your brain and not saying it out loud, whatever it was. Okay, so we're just gonna put a little bit here and a little bit here and then a little bit here, but not any there. Yes, we are. We're gonna put a little bit there too.
But not in the middle.
But not in the middle, not there, guys. If you go like this and it sticks, you're screwed. Your elevator will stick. Now watch this, guys. Watch this storage device. Watch this. Boom, right there. Oh no, it's happened. I have to go to the hospital. Just kidding. I don't, because I can just wipe it right off. If that was CA, you might as well just, it's over. It's over. Okay, right down in the hole. Right here. Look at this. Look at that, right in the hole. You'll notice I didn't even wait for that to set up. This airplane's gonna spontaneously erupt into a million pieces. Which is ironic because it's only like 17 or 18 pieces in total. Okay, look, this is how you put the cap on. The reason we show every step on Brian Phillips RC is because, first of all, you probably didn't need help with any of that, okay? But China glue is awesome. If you did that with CA, it would be easy, but you just need to be careful because even though this is EPO, it should be okay for putting CA on there, even if it's not foam safe. Sometimes they call it foam safe CA low odor. I wouldn't know because I had a brain injury. I did.
I know.
Why are you laughing at my
can't
brain
smell
injury?
anything.
So rude. Look at this. Somebody dropped that in the box. That should be out here. Now, if you want to fix that, if yours comes like that, you can take some hot water before you glue them together, and you can put that in hot water and it will expand the tip. It will make the tip get like longer. Okay? All right, so that's glued together. Elevator still moves free. You don't have to worry about it hitting anything. And then eventually we'll come back and make adjustments to this. Don't adjust it now. Don't try to twist this without holding this with pliers. That's gonna eventually need to be turned so that it is in the right orientation and that little ball linky thing is in the right orientation as well, okay? If you cut that corner, you'll regret it, I promise. All right, so now look at this. We have a strap for the battery. It moves free, that's very nice. Don't get any glue on that. Remember, we're not gluing this. This wing is going to be held on by screws, but we're not ready to do it. You know why? Because we have two wires that need to come out of here, okay? Look at this, we have one and the other. Do we know which one's which? Yes, because one goes down this channel and one goes down this channel. And that's the extent of what we need to know. It doesn't matter beyond that because it really, truthfully doesn't matter. You're gonna be able to figure it out when you plug them in to your receiver and it goes the wrong way. You'll know. But just remember, you have a left and a right aileron. They are separate servos. So you can set up one to go up and one to go down. Simultaneously, if you want to save the channels, you can use the Y cable that's provided. We may be saving this for another plane and then instead opting to set up flaperons, which means we're going to use up a channel here and a channel here, and they can move the same direction, or they can also alternatively move opposite directions, or both. Okay, that would be a flaperon configuration. Normally flaperons, this plane's upside down, they would go down together. Spoilerons would go up together. I should probably put the wing in an upright condition. Flying along, if you spoil the lift, you'd spoil the lift by going up, and you would create a flap by going down. Not to be confused with an aileron that goes up and down, but you would call this a spoileron if they would go up together and then still act as ailerons, or a flaperon if they both go down and still act as ailerons. Okay? Typically with an outboard aileron, when the flaps go down, if you're acting as flaperons, then you will have a tendency to pitch down, so you'll need to have an elevator up correction. Okay? So the elevator is going to need to go up to keep the plane flying level and enjoy the additional drag and slowdown that you would expect from flaps. If you go up, typically you're going to experience a little bit on an outboard aileron. So a spoileron configuration, the plane would tend to pitch up, and then you'd have a downward elevator correction. Okay? If you choose to do that, I'll be honest with you, I'm tempted to not do any of it. But the camera crew is giving me that look like I don't want to deal with that crap. And I am saying, yeah, but people want help with this stuff.
But if it's a belly lander.
What if it's coming in hot? So the other thing you can do too is the angle of incidence or the angle of attack of the aircraft, the fuse, okay, is going to tend to, with flaperons, it's going to tend to go like this. Even with inboard flaps down, you can change the angle of incidence a little bit. Well, the angle of incidence is the angle of the wing attached to the fuse. But the angle of attack, you want to be able to fly down to the landing strip and still bleed off speed. If you go up with ailerons, it will actually tend to make this thing have less drag because you take out some of the airfoil shape, and then you thus create less drag. So you can actually go faster. But that's not the way it usually manifests with spoilerons in my experience. Okay, so this is going to go through the hole, right?
We might need that Y cable just to feed them through and then like unplug it when we're ready, because that's a pretty short cable.
I'm used to sticking short things through holes.
Okay.
Let's try. Ready? In the hole? I think that's the hole. Is that the hole you suppose?
I don't know.
Let's try this first. So it drops down. It's obviously fits. Okay, I have to assume that's right. Then we have this, which has a nice handhold on it. Okay, so this would be like throwing the airplane. Okay, so we'll drop this down on there. So we can add the Y cable without too much trouble. Okay, so now that that's on, we can go ahead and throw these super short screws through. And then as soon as we get the screws started, which these are Phillips, and I'm gonna grab this. That's a flat-bladed screwdriver, Brian. What are you doing? 4mm is probably too small. Nope, it's about perfect. 4mm, which would be equivalent to about a 1.5, Phillips 1.5. Oh, there it goes. Drop it down, run the screw in. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, Brian, do you really need to tell me how to screw an airplane? The answer is, you'd be surprised. There are planes, from a standpoint of just watching a reviewer on YouTube and saying, hey, am I gonna make a purchase decision for a plane? There are a lot of planes in the cheap arena that these don't line up, and it turns into a nightmare. We have literally had to do surgery on models, watch this tight. This is gonna tighten, this is gonna start to pucker. When that puckers or this puckers, you know you're too tight or on the verge of being too tight, okay? You can tell it's really starting to close up now. And I'm really turning, guys. Go back so they can see my fingers. As I turn, you see how hard I'm grabbing that? Because my fingers get white, okay? It's gonna start really sucking that wing in, closing the gap. You're probably thinking, if you're brand new to RC aircraft and you used to do balsa wood airplanes, you're like, yeah, whatever, it's a foam piece of crap coffee cup. Well, let me tell you something. There's a lot of awesome foam planes. And yes, balsa wood planes are really nice too. Not to take anything away from balsa wood. The truth is balsa wood tend to be more expensive. They tend to be a little bit heavier. But the foam planes have lots of reinforcement in them. There's a lot of carbon fiber and a lot of plastic. And what they do is they take these two contact points that are going to hold together, and it's usually plastic sleeves that go together and butt up tight. And they pull, and they have a big, big open space like this. It's going to suck two pieces of foam together. So sure, it's foam ultimately, but like there's metal in this, there's plastic in this. By the way, that is a sweet looking plane.
Yeah,
and it
cool.
is basically a plane right now, which is pretty cool. And I gotta say, it reminds me a lot of the Bearcat. Reminds me a lot of that. Hand launch size is perfect. Really cool.
Nice.
By the way, did I tell the people what size this is? It is
960, I think.
I can't. Oh yeah, 920 millimeters.
920.
Yeah, 920, 36 inches. Okay. All right. So if you are brand new to foam, though, that hopefully will help you to understand. Like this, is all plastic. It's well painted. It's a really nice jig color to match this. This is a little bit darker than this, but it's a close match. Okay. There's a screw here. It's accessible here, and a screw accessible here, so you can take that off. This is more secure and strong than I expected, but for a belly lander, that's pretty cool. This is plastic, by the way. Plastic. That's plastic, and then this is plastic, okay? When we're done setting up the ailerons or flaperons or whatever we do, then we'll be able to put these on, okay? They are molded into the plastics. There's a drop down for those. Obviously, you can't put these on until you're done. So we are gonna come back with China glue shortly for that. So let's not get too excited and put away the China glue. Now, by the way, guys, if you don't have China glue, you wanna use CA, go for it, be my guest. It's fine, it'll work. Medium CA, foam safe or not foam safe. I really don't care what you pick, but I like BSI, so you would be getting the purple cap for the medium CA that'd be non-foam safe, and then the black cap, which would be the medium gap filling, low odor. But just so you know, the difference in price is like considerable. It's like multiples. You'll probably spend 3 times as much or 4 times as much on low odor as you will on regular CA. So you're gonna wanna try to use the regular CA. And truthfully, there's overspray on this. I just noticed that there's yellow overspray. Looks like somebody peed on it, which is weird because this side is perfect. This is clean, that is not. Not a big deal, but we point out flaws that we see in models, not because we're trying to beat up Hobby King or any other brand that we work with for that matter, but because we are truthful with our audience, because you're spending your hard-earned money and we're opening them. Okay, look at this. Those are exhaust ports. I'm gonna glue those in right here and right here, but I'm not sure if they're gonna glue in like sideways. Yeah, I think that's probably the way it's gonna go. I'm gonna have to glue this side and then stuff it in there because there's not enough contact area to really glue that. And these are carbon fiber spars that they've chopped up. Not a big fan of the way they did that because it's carbon fiber. Like, why not just do a little plastic? It'd been cheaper. Oh, you know what? That might be just fiberglass. I take it back.
You could also glue in your...
Watch the glue.
In there.
Well, I'm trying to glue, you see that little imperfection? I covered up the imperfection. And then I'm gonna just put a little bit of glue right there. And the reason I did that is because I just don't like getting fiberglass on my skin because I'm delicate.
Yes.
You already knew that though.
I did.
So look, now you can pull this out. Look at that. Pull this out and you can let it sit and cook off. Okay? So I'm gonna lay this down here and I'm gonna let that cook off. What do you mean by cook off, Brian? That means let the chemicals react to ambient air and kind of like a drying effect. This side's white, that side's a little bit darker. I'm gonna go with this side, okay? I'm gonna find the most damaged spot I can find and give it a little slather, okay? Just a little bit there, and then I'm gonna come in here with my dirty tip and just wipe it in there, okay? There is really nothing super difficult about this. It's just more a matter of a few steps. Okay, drop it in there, drop it like it's hot, then pull it out. Grab the strings so you don't have a big mess on your hands, literally. Lay it down on this instruction manual, and then watch, like this. Wipe off the sticky so you don't take off paint elsewhere, okay? Recap your glue, and you're ready to move on to the next step. There is no magical order, by the way. Some people are like, read the effing manual, Brian. This is our manual, just so you know. If you guys understood, these are new releases, they're early releases, so they don't always have the manuals done when we get the planes, okay? So you see this? That's had a chance to cook off for a minute or two. So now I can just stick that in there and I could quite literally pick up the plane by that now. This side, I get a little bit heavier with the glue, so I doubt it's gonna go in quite as easy, but oh yeah, it's in there. I could pick up the plane by that. Okay, so they're in. They won't come out. I could go fly that right now. I'd be comfortable doing it. That's why I like China glue, okay? CA, you could use Kicker and it'd be instantaneous or near instantaneous. Let's put the prop on. Okay, so camera crew is gonna turn the light on so you can see that this is smooth. That's very weird. I don't know why they made that decision, but it is what it is. Normally there'd be texture on there. Maybe they're just depending on the screws for texture. Then, let's look at this. See, there's texture here. That would normally pair up against a surface. But as you can see, it's not gonna go like that. This is gonna go like that, okay? The thing I don't quite understand is how, oh, the screws are gonna come from the front. So this is gonna slide on first. And I have to kind of hold the plane because it's not wanting to drop down on there. So the shaft size must be a little bit off, maybe. Come on now, get in there. Huh, weird. Does it not slide back?
That would be really weird.
That would be like the first time we've seen that ever. I don't think that shaft is gonna go on there. There's no way they meant for it to stay out that far. You guys see, oh, there it goes. It's a boy. Okay, now, then the prop, this is a 10.5E. And you'll notice that that's gonna pair up to that kind of contour, just like that, okay? And then we have to put this little washer thingy on there. Now there are these spacer doohickeys. These spacer doohickeys will go around the prop shaft if you need to make a space up, okay? Now I don't know if you really absolutely have to do that for this application, but what you do is you just slide it on there, figure out which one works, and then I usually just pop them out like this, and I will slide that back, usually to brace the back side of the prop because there's actually a relief in there, and then there's a relief up here, but I like to relief to the back, okay? Then turn it back into its home position. These can be kept into perpetuity. If not for helping to secure another prop, it will mostly annoy your wife.
Mostly.
Okay. So put that over there to be kept forever.
Great.
Yep. And then we're going to slide this on. There is a correct way and an incorrect way. This would be incorrect. That would be correct. Okay. So that goes like that. Then we put the nut on. We put the nut onto the bolt. Okay. Tighten it on. And then what we need to do is we need to get something that can really, really tighten it. Okay. And what is that going to look like? It's going to look like a crescent wrench that interestingly looks like it's made by Masterforce.
Right. Is that a metric?
Thank you for
wrench?
blinding me.
You're welcome.
Yes, this is my Masterforce 8-inch metric. This is my metric 8-inch crescent wrench made by a different brand. Okay, see how that motor's spinning as I try to tighten this? Okay, I finally got a purchase and it just bit. So I'm good. I don't have to worry about trying to brace the stator. That would be the stator back there, that black thing, okay? And that looks pretty sweet even without the spinner, but you know what? Let's go ahead and be normal people and put the spinner on. Once I drop this down, those screw holes are gonna receive the screws that I'll pass through here in mere moments. I'm not like a huge fan of the way this is going together with the screws, but it's okay. 3 millimeters. I would rather have that go on in different ways, but you know what? I'm gonna tolerate it. Why? Because I think it's actually a pretty sweet plane, okay? Holding this on. If there's one thing that I've learned about Hobby King products is that they have been very impressively working well. Because it's like, okay, so suppose this was like a Dynam plane. They would try to make it work well and fail miserably in every regard. And it becomes a complete project plane. Back in the day, we used to call Hobby King planes project planes, which is kind of like my nice way of saying, hey, if you guys want to sign up for a project, then this is what you can do, like an ARF, okay? Now, I'll be honest with you, put on control arms, not that big a deal. It's just annoying for us because we've built like 350 planes or something like that. And so after you've built, you know, the first several hundred planes, you eventually get to a point where you're like, oh, I have to put another set of aileron control arms on.
Yes.
Now, if this was I really don't understand why they can't do that. Now, I do understand flaps because flaps will be positionally different between radio systems. And I think that's where they're getting off not having these things wired in. But let's just talk for a minute about how nice this plane looks. That looks really good. And just under 1 meter in size class. Well, I shouldn't say it. It's just over 900 would be a better way of putting it. Let's pop off the canopy. Okay, so a couple ways we could handle the next few steps. Obviously, we're gonna have to put in a radio system here pretty quick, okay? So we have the elevator, we have the elevator here, we have the rudder here, and then we have the two controls that are coming in from the ailerons, and we have to figure out what position they're gonna be in. So there's a number of different good ways to do this, the easiest of which is to hook up some sort of a servo testing apparatus. Now, if you have an XBC 100 Smart Checkers, a Spectrum product, or if you have an XBC 200, this is what they're offering now. This is what they used to offer, okay? These are great. I hope you had one. If you didn't, you get this. It's got the IC5 and the IC2, as well as the IC3, which is nice. You can energize it with a smart battery, which is kind of nice. If you're not using smart batteries, it's probably not gonna matter to you. But in our application, we many times are using. Now, the other thing you could do is you could just hook up your receiver and you could just run your transmitter. And that would allow you to center the servos. But in this application, I'm gonna show you using a smart checker because it is a product that we link to in our brianphillipsrc.com/supplies, okay? Why do we want to showcase this? Because it's easy for you to understand why this tool would be good for your tool bag. Just grab any run-of-the-mill, even uncharged batteries, as long as there's a little bit of charge in there. You can energize the thing, it will turn on. Now I can plug this in and I'm gonna use a Y cable. Why am I gonna use a Y cable? Because if I'm going to the center of position, I could actually go through a Y cable and run both of them, okay? So I'll show you that, but you could just do one at a time, but we'll show you this first, okay? So right here, you've got a negative, plus, and a signal. So signal is the yellow, red is plus, and then brown is negative, okay, for like DC circuit. Now, if this is Futaba instead of Hextronics JR, this would be white, this would be red, and this would be black, okay? So black is ground or brown is ground. Just remember the darker one's ground. Then the lighter one would be white or yellow. The red one's always red, okay? Well, I mean, it's always red in this application, okay? So I can take this battery, I could take this thing, and I want to set up servo testing. So I'm going to click, I'm going to scroll down to servo test, and then it's just centering. And you can do that, or you can double click and it will go through a scroll. Okay. So we're going to pretend like we're hooking them up separate from one another, which we're not going to keep it that way, but we're going to do it for the sake of the test so that we can flip the plane back over. And so my fingers are kind of blocking your view, but yellow is toward the camera crew. So I'll just plug that in. And then all you got to do is just be careful about your polarity, if you will. So yellow is toward the camera crew again. And just take note of what direction the yellow is, and I just plug it in that way. You're probably thinking to yourself, geez, Brian, you could put the receiver in by now. You know what? That is not totally untrue, but we are trying to teach people how to do this, so just relax, dude. Just relax. We're trying our best to help the new guy. Okay, good, so that's staying. Now, you'll see that they're very excited to see you now, okay? So we have these aileron linkages here that need to be either extended or retracted. And we know we need them centered because they're gonna act as ailerons. Even if we use them as flaperons or spoilerons, they need to be centered in the home position, okay? If they were flaps, then there would be a potential for needing to be all the way out one way or all the way in one way. And then you would wanna press the button until it goes to the fully collapsed or fully retracted. And then you would want them to have the throw in the correct direction for an inboard flap, okay? That's only coming down, if that makes sense, okay? So also these are spinning really easy. So I don't even know if I need pliers, but I think the ones on the elevator and rudder are gonna need pliers, okay? So why are pliers so critical? Because pliers are gonna help me also grab my nuts later.
Okay, fine.
I mean, you could do it if you want. Okay. All right, so here's how you're gonna do this. There is a series of holes. I'm gonna put my finger here for backdrop so you can see. What hole are we gonna stick it in? Good question. Probably the outside most hole. unless it is milled out for another one. Now, it's not. So I'm just gonna go to the outermost hole. Why the outermost hole? Because I want the most throw I can get out of this servo apparatus, okay? Now, does that mean you have to go to the outside hole? If you have too much control authority, you could test right here, ailerons, 5 to 8 millimeters on the elevator, 14 to 22 on the rudder, and ailerons is 8 to 18. You know what else you could do? Completely ignore that crap, like I've done.
Yes.
For 10 years plus, okay? And I've had reasonable luck. I haven't had perfect luck. There are times I've screwed the pooch pretty bad, but as you go in and in and in and in more, you will have less control throw, but you're also gonna undermine your efforts at using flaperons because the more deflection, the more flap output you're gonna get. Same is true for the elevator. And remember, when you run out of throw, you run out of throw. You can always run a little bit of expo, or you can reduce the rates in your servo on your transmitter system. However, when you do that, you lose precision and repeatability of positional awareness on these servos and every servo. So if you want the best results, you will mechanically put this where you want it. I'm gonna put it in the outside hole, okay? So this needs to be up or down. No, it needs to be neutral. It needs to be neutral. Yes, this is not attached here, because if it were attached here, it would bind. It's attached here to here with the pinch hinge, and then it's unattached here. See that? Pretty cool. Okay, so we need this to be neutral, centered, and then this needs to be sucked in a long ways. I don't know if we can do it. Do you wanna know why? I don't think we got enough, but I'm gonna hold this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we're gonna bottom out 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe 13, 14, 15 half turns, and I feel like I'm running out of room, meaning the shaft is gonna eventually protrude through the head of this. And it looks like we're right at the very last turn, and I think I can tolerate that. If you screw too hard, you will blow the head right off of that, and you will destroy that thing. If you try hard, I guarantee you can do it, okay? I'm gonna back off from that last tie position, and I'm gonna look at it. Look, we get to come out half a turn, awesome. Okay, as long as I'm half a turn out, I don't care, I'm good with it. All right, so hold this with your finger, your thumb and your forefinger. That's this finger, like that. And then hold this so that you can line up the ball link. We still need to come out a little bit more. So we'll come out another half turn. Just get your balls lined up. There it is, a little bit more half a turn. So now we're a 1.5 turns out from being bottomed out, so that's great. One more half turn. You guys see what I'm doing? Just 1 half turn at a time until we get there. 1 half turn. Get that ball. Ooh, that's looking pretty dang good. That's looking pretty good. Now, look over here, guys. We have a bag that's labeled aileron, and that's where those thingies came out of. So now we need to grab nuts and screws. Okay, so we'll grab the first set. Look at this. See, pretty good. Now, I can also grab, I believe this is a 2 millimeter, nope, 1.5 millimeter. 1.5 millimeter nut driver so that I can tighten that in there. That seems about right. Good, so I'm just gonna feed this through just like so. Pretty simple stuff, guys. I'm sure you could figure it out. Mostly what people come to Brian Phillips RC for is help with radio setup, okay? So if you're needing radio setup help, that will follow the build because we have to have the plane built before we can really do that. And you also note that I am currently actively driving this servo. So hon, would you grab my nuts? Just kidding, I'll do it.
Okay.
Holding my nuts. Now listen, there's a couple of different trains of thought. Leave this loose so it can spin. After all, this is a nylock, okay? It's not gonna back off with just moving back and forth. However, you've got a ball link there, so you can actually torque that down if you want, okay? So we're gonna plug that in. Now, if I wanted to, I could move it and test its positional awareness and see how it moves. I'm not gonna do that. You wanna know why? Because I trust my servo tester.
Okay.
Okay, now we're gonna do the exact same process over here. If you did get it on the first time, you're gonna hold this with your thumb and your forefinger so that it goes to that position. But before we can do anything useful with it, I'm just gonna run this all the way in. I'm just gonna run it all the way in because we know we had to do it on the other side. And then I'm just gonna back it out about 1, 2, and 3/2. So we're going to be very similar to the other side. Now, same as we did on the other side, I'm going to just line this up with the holes. Sometimes you got to open those holes a little bit to be able to fit these in there. And once you get it started, go ahead and give her heck. Just cram her in and finish the job. You see that? It's not wanting to go in. If you ever have one that gives you trouble like that, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can open up the hole a little bit, or you can just force it in, and you'll notice that little chunk of white plastic that it ripped out. So we ripped the hole. Hate it when that happens, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so now I'm gonna take the pliers. I'm going to hold them right here, okay? And I'm gonna look at that. Yeah, that needs to come out 1/2, 2/2, 3/2. So a lot more than the other side. And we're still not there. 4/2, 5/2, 6/2. Getting close. Probably 1 more half. And you're probably thinking, why do you count in half turns? Because that's what you have impact over. Half at a time. Very good. Okay, now remember, this doesn't need to be perfect, but it needs to be dang close, okay? If you're off by multiple turns, fix it mechanically before you even worry about setting up your radio system, okay? So I'm gonna just slide this shaft through the hole. Once that shaft is through the hole, I'll go through the control arm. Special thanks to Stu for working with Brian Phillips RC. We met Stu at Jonah. I was just thinking about Stu today. And when I was first getting into the hobby, I used to watch Stu all the time. Stu is great. And he's still involved, and he's doing a little bit of the quality control and engineering on the airplanes, which is pretty awesome. And he does a really fantastic job. And I think we can actually attribute a lot of the success that Hobby King is enjoying to Stuart. So thanks, Stuart, for working with Brian Phillips RC. It's been a long time coming. We met him a couple years before they started working with us again. It's funny because we worked with Hobby King before they worked with us, just like Horizon and just like some of the other vendors that we work with now. But at the end of the day, we're really happy they're working with us because they have been coming out with some good stuff. Now let's look at this again. See how this is lifted just slightly, or lowered, if you will. Mm-hmm. See how it's down just a little bit? I feel like that's wrong. Look at this side. That looks perfect, okay? This is imperfect. Imperfection is within my control at this stage of the game. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and loosen the nut, and I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna fix this. I'm gonna basically come out half a turn, and then if it still looks imperfect at that point, then we'll make a judgment call if it's more or less imperfect than what we experienced here. Now, I'll be honest with you, sometimes when you line these up, you can pretty much guesstimate your way into a pretty good outcome. I got lucky on the first one that it was darn near perfect. This one, not so much. So I'm gonna go half a turn out, okay? Oh, so I was thinking about Stuart because we were talking about Jonah. I was talking with a customer today about it when I was at my day job. You guys didn't know this, I work on industrial scales. I was talking to a customer about how cool Jonah is and how interesting it is and all that good stuff. I'm always proselytizing these fun things that we do, not just when I do it on YouTube. Because here's the thing, guys, I actually do like this stuff. I don't just do it so that we can have a YouTube channel. Okay, there are some people on the World Wide Web that I know this is going to be hard to believe are just out to sell stuff. Okay, we want to sell stuff too, but at the end of the day, we want to sell the right stuff to the right people at the right time for the right reasons. And that means if this is, wow, that's a good fit now. Look at that. Look how perfect that is. Give them a shot from the side so they can really see how perfect that is. Beautiful. Okay, so I was talking to my buddy and I said, hey, we go out to these shows and it's super neat, and there's like 10,000 people that like live there for 10 days. It's nuts. Okay, so now I'm gonna double click. Watch this. Oh yeah, look at that. That's beautiful. So now the other thing you can do is you can also flip this thing over and see if you're gonna bind mechanically. But I can already tell we're not, because you can literally tell when they bind, okay? So now that we know that they're in the right position, I can click this, go back to the center. And why do we care about centered? Because, with due respect, I need to glue the covers on with some China glue. China glue, okay? Why are we gonna China glue this and not CA it? We already explained this earlier, and the truth still persists, okay? Watch how this is gonna work. We're gonna drop this on there just like that, which means we're gonna mostly glue here, and we're probably not gonna glue a lot there, but we might glue a little bit there. Why do we want to glue mostly here? Because if there's ever a serviceability concern, you can undo the glue a little bit easier on the servo than you will be on other areas. So I'm going to be a little bit more sparing on the way I do this. That's why you saw me use so much just then. I'm gonna hit the corners. And just remember, this can be put in place or you can tack it up, okay? The best way to do this is to give it a little bit of glue on both sides of the surface and then drop it into place. Let it give a little swirl around and then pull it, just like that, okay? And what you're gonna do is you see those strings, they're super ultra fine. I'm gonna cut them with my hand and then I'm gonna take and lay this down upside down and we're gonna let it cook off. Why do we let things cook off, camera crew? We've mentioned it before, I'll mention it again, because if you don't let it cook off, you're likely to get a poor bond and it's very, very easy to do this. Now, I have to pay honor to another tributary of Brian Phillips RC, and that is Steve Hands.
Oh.
He is the guy that I used to watch that led me to the cook-off commentary. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
And it was really cool because Steve and his wife came to our physical residence to enjoy some RC shenanigans, and it was super fun. Steve and Denise. And after we heard about their neighbors, Robert De Niro, and we crashed a few planes, we had some good times. I made some steak, but I couldn't get my stove hot enough for the gigantically thick steak that they brought us, which was ridiculously huge. Oh, that was a grill. The grill wasn't working. That's right. You remember that?
Yes.
It was super fun.
Yeah.
But it's just so cool. The culminating experience of this RC, well, not culminating experience, but just one of the many people that we have met over the years. It's been amazing. I love this hobby. Met people from all over the world.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
Literally.
Because we enjoy the same sport and hobby. It's crazy. Okay, peel it up. Look at this, watch this. Now, if I was Steve, I'd be cramming some carbon fiber rods in there and making it crash proof.
Right.
And I'd be filming just my hands. But I'm not gonna do that. Sorry, Steve. All right, check this out. I hope he sees this video now.
He commented on a video just the other day.
Oh, he did? Stuck it on there. So anyway, we can't let the cat out of the bag on all the big plans at Brian Phillips RC. Of course, there's always something going in my brain. Can't say it's sensical or logical or smart or intelligent. Okay, we're gonna stick that down. By the way, thanks for being part of Brian Phillips RC. If you're one of our members, we appreciate it. We've got hundreds of members now. And those members are here to support my needs as batteries are falling all over the place. And we really do appreciate you guys doing that. At the end of the day, it's really nice if you guys support us a little bit financially. A little bit goes a long way because this is a volume sport, let's just be honest. What we do on YouTube is here to help the masses. Otherwise, that was pretty ridiculous. Okay, so now that we have that done, we have to do kind of a similar configuration for the elevator and rudder. Now, you don't have to have this thing, but it is really nice and it's like definitely a good tool to have in the tool bag. Why do I think you should have it in your tool bag? Because you're gonna use it. That's one thing we try to do is showcase items that you will almost certainly use. Okay, now the negative is toward my right hand or toward my belly. So I'm gonna take the brown on the elevator and just stick this in the hole. Okay, so there it is. And I'm gonna click. Oh, good. I didn't hear it moving at first. It made me kind of nervous. So I'm at the center. So now that we know that that's the elevator, yep, I'm just holding it with my hand. Go back so they can see. Okay, now to the center, okay? So it is currently centered, and that's critical because guess what we need to do now? We need to flip this thing on its side so I can get to it, and hopefully the battery doesn't strewn out. See this? I'm gonna grab the rod hard, and I'm gonna back this in. Okay, I'm really holding it hard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, you guys, I just count out loud because I'm a creature of habit, you may have noticed. And if you go back here, you're gonna have to get up high so they can see this. That needs to come down just a hair to be square, okay? So in order to come down just a hair, I'm gonna go in just a little bit more. There's another half, and I feel like I'm bottoming out, but I'm not. There we go. That's probably all I can get out of it, okay? And that's still got a little bit of an upward cant on that elevator. See if I can get another half turn. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Now, if you run out of throw, you can adjust your controls on the servo linkage on the other end of the rod. But I think we're really dang close. Now, show them quick. My nut and bolt sack here. Okay, so we see we got a nut and we've got a bolt. Okay, so I'm gonna grab this. I'm gonna stick my 1.5 millimeter drive in there. Now, just full disclosure, if you don't have a 1.5 millimeter drive, you can use the provided one, which is kind of handy to be able to do that. If you don't have one, but I'm gonna use these because they're really nice. And by the way, we had a wonderful supporter actually send us most of the tools we use because they got tired of watching me struggle through builds. Obviously, they failed. I'm just joking. They didn't. I'm going to grab my nuts now so I can reach around. Very awkward. Just get that threaded. And then you see how I'm reaching around to the bottom side just so I can get this screwed in. And then once it's screwed in, then our elevator is attached. And it's attached. So now look what we can do. Watch this. I can double click and go to a sweep now. Double click. And you'll notice that we have a sweep. Pretty cool. Okay. So now if you're going to measure the throws, you could measure the throws right now. And you could match them to this if you wanted to. I'm not going to do that. And neither should you, unless you want to, and then you can do it. All right, so now we're centered. I'm gonna disconnect. I'm gonna plug in the rudder now. This is the literal process of building a plug and fly aircraft. It's not really hard, it just takes a little bit more skill than the run-of-the-mill bind and fly. Double click, I wanna see that shaft go in and out. Oh yeah, wowzers, whoa, whoa. Okay, now click, go to the center. Now that it's centered, let's see if the rudder would be if I were to attach the two and, well, see, I've got this thing. That's pretty awesome. It's really close. Okay, that's ironic. So I'm gonna grab the rudder linkage and I'm gonna just spin this now. In half a turn, remember it's lined up. It's gotta be lined up nicely so you don't have a bunch of side loading on there. And I've got a little bit of side loading there. I don't know if it's enough to matter. I'm gonna hold this in position. I'm gonna just, nope, I need to go in another half at least. Probably closer to 2 halves. There's 1 half, there's 2 halves. I'm gonna get that ball link. There we go. Remember, you kind of gotta overdo it a little bit. When you let go, it'll spring back. Okay, so that's really close, guys. But I don't like the angle of this. I gotta bring that cant back just a hair. So that's nice and square now. Do you see the difference?
Yes.
Good. Sometimes it's hard to tell because the camera crew goes to sleep on me.
I'm not.
Sometimes. She is, what? What'd you think?
Popping.
No, it was nothing. It didn't do anything. I do need I need to screw it some more, okay? Because these are sort of threading in a little bit because the screw must be slightly larger. There you go. Then, it's kind of nice because it holds it for me, which is unusual. I didn't expect that to happen. So you'll see, I'll just grab my nut. And if you guys can't tell, there is a correct way. You want the nylon to be out, not in, okay? If you ever run into a weird circumstance where you've only got a few threads to purchase, then that would be one of those weirdity moments where you might try to put it in backward, but it's hard to start a nylock if you start it backward. By the way, if you slip off of your nuts with your plier type needle nose pliers, you can really damage things. So don't slip off the nuts. Okay. All right, so now we'll check this by double clicking. And then look at that beautiful wave. Wave, kids. Okay. So this plane is basically built, with the exception of putting the canopy on. We do need to do a shelf liner trick. The shelf liner trick, of course, is very easy. It's an optional step, but it is very helpful. It usually makes better sense to do the shelf liner trick after you have tested your CG, because then you know exactly where your battery, or likely your battery, is gonna go, okay? We can't really do that until we have the receiver installed, but we can get an idea of about where it's gonna be. So let's do that next. Okay, so they recommended 2200 3S, right?
Yes.
2200 3S, correct?
Yeah, 20 to 40C.
Okay, so 2200 3S. In a Turnigy, there is a 3-cell that's short like this. Really nice pack. We actually have 2 of those, which is nice, so we'll show that one. Now, alternatively, if you're a Spectrum guy like we are, or you've got a little bit longer pack, it's a little bit more slender, this would be a smart pack. Yes, you can cram an IC3 into an XT60 device. Even though those don't look like they will, this will cram in, okay? So we're gonna start with a Turnigy offering because that's what Hobby King sells, and that's one of their branded offerings. They also have some high volt packs and different things that we have shown on this channel. A lot of what I had at the beginning was Turnigy. Now, they provide some Velcro. This Velcro is pretty long, so we might be able to just kind of temporarily stuff it in there and see how things feel for center of gravity. Let's try that, okay? Before we get into the shelf liner, let's try this. Be careful, if you pull too hard, I promise you can break this, okay? Don't break it if you don't have to, okay? Just get all the leads stuffed in there, however. You don't need to power it up, okay? Nothing's plugged in yet, so it wouldn't really matter, but you don't wanna have an uncontrolled ESC, in my opinion at least, okay? Now I'm gonna put the lid on and just kind of hold all this crap in there together temporarily. Why do I care about the center of gravity? The center of gravity is going to dictate how aggressive the elevator has to operate to pitch control. And it's also going to dictate the stability of the aircraft overall. Stable aircraft tend to be nose heavy. Understable aircraft are tail heavy. Okay, understable aircraft will tend to be a little bit harder to fly. We have this rule of thumb. Nose heavy planes fly, I don't know, they fly. Tail heavy planes fly once, okay? I'd rather be nose heavy on a maiden than tail heavy, but that's just for me because the way I fly, but with stabilizers and all sorts of other stuff. Okay, so 2200 3S, we already talked about that. Was that a 30C? I think it was a 30C.
Yes.
Okay, so we need to be 55 to 60 millimeters back from the leading edge. Now there's a little bit of a cant on this wing. It kicks back a little bit. I'm exaggerating to give dramatic effects so you can tell what I'm talking about. So you want to measure from the inboard portion. Turn on your calipers, switch it to millimeters if your kid switched it. Okay. We're going from 55 to 65, right?
No, 55 to 60.
55 to 60. Okay, so 55. Close enough. 55. And I like to mark both sides, approximately the same. And you'll notice I make a little detent. And then 60, I'll scroll that in. And you can see I'm not getting it exactly perfect. That's okay. It doesn't need to be exactly perfect because at the end of the day, you just want it to be very close. It's not going to be a big deal. You can also cross-reference your measurements with a 5 millimeter measurement, okay? So a 5 millimeter measurement, meaning measure from your first point, you can measure the range from one good reliable measurement. And this will tell you, because it's only a 5 millimeter difference. Of course, if you're trying to measure 5 millimeters, it's a little hard. I'm gonna use my set screw. And then look at this, we have about 5 millimeters there. We have about 5 millimeters there. It's close enough for what we're doing because really at the end of the day, that's not a very big range and the pad of my finger is probably greater than 5 millimeters. So there's gonna be so much you can do. Then I darken the hole with another tool like a Sharpie, okay? And you're probably thinking to yourself, but now you got these butt ugly markings on your wing. Well, they might be butt ugly to you. But if your plane flies into a tree because you can't control it, that's also gonna be butt ugly. Now, also butt ugly would be crashing into a tree because you let the battery die on maiden, but I wouldn't know anything about that. Okay, so guys, look, flip it over. Grab the center of gravity points, feel them with your middle finger. If you've got the longest finger is your middle finger. In my case, that's true. Tail heavy on the front, tail heavy on the back. That means we can either try to slide everything forward to help with the center of gravity, or we can increase and add some weight. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slide this forward and then I'm gonna basically take my ESC and maybe stuff it in here sideways to make sure that it's up front. And I'm gonna also make sure that I have that battery all the way forward. It might be too small of a battery. And by the way, We were asking what C rating that is, and I still can't tell. Where the heck is the C rating? Is it not on? 30C, 30C. Okay, so we're just gonna put that lead forward, and I wanna see how far off. It feels like it's gonna be really far off still, okay? So then you just feel with your index finger. That's tail heavy on all the points. Nose heavy on the front. Okay, so we can achieve decent results, but just keep in mind if you mount your receiver further back, you're gonna tend to exaggerate. And by the way, that battery is really far forward, okay? Now, let's see if we can resolve that by sliding the strap. Yes, we can. Very good, okay? So now that we know we can basically hit CG, that helps us a little bit with knowing where to put the Velcro. Okay, so we've obviously got these wires that are coming up for the ailerons. We currently have a Y splitter in here, okay? So we can probably eliminate that here in a minute, but we are ultimately gonna need to get this battery to be up here. The other thing is there is a little bit of room. You can actually separate those and go to the outside, but that's gonna prevent you from bringing this strap too much further forward. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stick this Velcro down. We'll use, this is actually a long piece of Velcro. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna keep, this is a nice piece of Velcro.
Of course it is.
I'm gonna keep this Velcro. I'm gonna put it in my bag of Velcros in case I need Velcro for another project.
Running short.
Because I don't need that Velcro for this project because I'm gonna use some shelf liner instead. Shelf liner, of course, is what you're supposed to use to line your shelves. I know it's hard to believe. And what it's gonna do is it's going to make this thing, instead of sliding to and fro within your aircraft, it's going to basically, with a little bit of downward pressure, it's gonna stop it from sliding, okay? It's very easy to use. All I do is I take some scissors and I cut a strip and then I glue it in, or I use the Velcro to hold it in, and then you can always remove the Velcro if you've got somebody that uses Velcro on their packs. This is not going to be as effective, okay? So in this case, I'm gonna cut something like this, just because I'm gonna get to that next little angle there. This stuff is cheap. It's like $10 or $11 for this roll. You do like 10 million planes.
Mm-hmm. So it'll last us a little while longer, you mean?
Yeah, okay. So as you can see, pretty simple stuff. Glue this in here. Now there are other offerings. We've had some people send us stuff over the years, and with respect to people sending us things to try, no offense, this is cheap, it's easy for people to replicate. You can go buy better stuff, okay? Yes. You can buy the thing that you put on your dash to put your sunglasses on. That stuff is awesome. Of course, it does eventually dry out. So does this. Like eventually it's not gonna work well. I just put a little bit on there. It doesn't need to be anything super intense. Now, you'll notice that our shelf liner is also solid. Some of the shelf liner it's got holes in it and that lets the glue through. It's kind of messy. So if you're using that type of shelf liner, fine. But we just found this, it's worked well for us, so we kind of stuck with it. And speaking of sticking with it, I'm gonna slide this in. I'm gonna just stick it down. I'm not even gonna worry, excuse me, about cooking off the glue because it's really irrelevant. Now, if I try to pull that out, it's gonna leave residue from the shelf liner and it's basically gonna pull off. Right now, I could do that. But again, this is one of those things that's going to be trapped underneath the battery. So it's not gonna have anywhere to go, okay? So it's very easy to utilize, okay? Now that we have that done, because it's the plug and fly, you'll notice I'm doing this in kind of a weird cattywampus order, you might argue. Okay, so this is pulled out and you're thinking to yourself, but geez, Brian, don't you need that thing stuck in there somewhere? Sure, maybe, I don't know. Depends on how things go, okay? But I know that if I was gonna plug this in and not do flap-ons, then it would be really easy to just take this Y cable. It would give me a pretty good reach to get back to wherever my receiver is. Now keep in mind the receivers we're using might be in the tune of 12, 13 grams. They're very light. And there's a few pockets you might be able to squeeze one in. You've got some reach, you've got some reach, you've got some reach. You'll be able to reach those, you'll be able to reach this, but key is we wanna try to keep it somewhat forward because we're trying to propagate some of the weight forward into the aircraft. This battery might not work in this airplane.
It might not.
It's got me kind of nervous, in fact. I'm gonna just go with the Spectrum battery for the moment. Sorry, Hobby King. because I need something to get the weight forward. So this is a 50C pack. It's a little bit heavier than a 30C pack, because as you can see, there's more bulk to it. I actually need the weight. And so there's no sense in trying to go with a lighter pack. Yes, we do have some Turnigy packs, but I don't happen to have the long Turnigy cells right now. I just have these compact ones. We have some China Hobby lines. Ooh, we do have the Nanotech, but of course these are 4S, so they're not gonna be appropriate to be too much power. So we're gonna go with a 50C 2200 3S, and that is going to give us more weight and more weight forward, okay? So I'm gonna just slide this in here and just see if we can run into that wire. Now, I don't know if I need to straddle, if I need to undo and try to pull it forward. Let's see if that gives us enough weight to get this thing to work, okay? So sliding this down, when I say sliding it down, I mean I wanna pull it under and through, because I don't want this all to come up like that. You see that? I want that to go down. And so sometimes it's a little bit tricky to demand that it does those different positions, okay? This is not an overly huge battery, so I'm just gonna do that for now for our testing. And then you can see I'm run into my aileron leads, which really is a sucky place for that to be, okay? Then I'm gonna do the same thing I did the first time, except I'm gonna go that way with the battery or with the motor leads. I'm gonna stuff this down sideways, and I'm gonna push it somewhat forward, but I don't wanna get to the back and have the stator or the motor prop shaft spinning and rubbing into the ESC, okay? So we're gonna go like this, we're gonna go like that, we're gonna go like this, and then of course at some point this will go back. Now, in this case, I can take the positive and hook the positive to the positive just to hold it. See, that'll keep my center of gravity test better. I don't know if I've got that position quite right, but let's check CG anyway. I think it'll stay for the CG test. Again, I'm just making sure we can get this all together. Nope, I can't do this right now because I can't get the canopy to stay. So I gotta tuck this down to the side, and then that'll allow me to put the canopy on so it stays. Okay. Now you'll notice my middle finger is lined up on the dots. Back hole, tail heavy. Front hole, tail heavy. Won't work. Not without adding dead load up front. I don't like doing that. So let's pull that out. I can slide this. I'm just not sure. Maybe I can just go over the top of it. You see it? See these two wires coming out, guys? That's my concern, is that I have to basically go over the top of my aileron leads, and I'm not a big fan of that. So I'm gonna disconnect this battery. I'm gonna undo this. I'm gonna pull the battery out. You guys see what I'm talking about there? I mean, I could probably go on top of the wing and come out the sides. It doesn't have to go through that hole. I wonder if that's what we're gonna have to do, hon. Because yeah, if I were to undo this like that and then use forceps to feed it back through the pocket, I wonder if I could do that. Guys, these are forceps. If you didn't know what forceps were, just think of the Doobie Brothers. Okay, so now look at this. I'm gonna just lift this up a little bit, and I'm gonna take this thing and just very carefully, I'm gonna see if I can feed this through. Looks like you could put the leads on either side, so I'm just gonna go with whatever side is easy to get it to go to. So I think there's a pretty good gap in there. Okay, I should probably be turning this the other way, but I don't know if I'm gonna get so lucky as to be able to do that. So I'm gonna go in here and just, you guys can kind of tell what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to feed this under. So I'm gonna grab this limp length and see if I can walk it up a little bit. Yeah, see, now it's popped out. It's popped out over here. You guys can see what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of pulling this through. I'm gonna flip my bent tip the other way. Now, because this is difficult, you know, this is something you could do a little bit different when you build yours. You might want to go through from the side. Now, I could dismount the wing and do that, but I'm not going to waste the time because I don't think it's really going to improve my circumstances by that much of a margin. Okay, but just be careful as you do this, you don't damage your cable. And I hope I haven't done that already. And you guys see what I'm doing here. That was not easy. Okay, see that? That sucked, okay? I don't like that step at all, okay? So I'm gonna actually pull this back just a hair and see if I can stick it down just to keep it. Nope, it ain't gonna stay out of my way. Bummer. Okay, so now we're gonna do the same exact thing. They did not give us a very good strategy for achieving the center of gravity on this plane. Now I'm gonna warn you guys, if you get your center of gravity wrong and you expect your plane to fly good on maiden, you'll be probably pretty disappointed. I mean, it's awesome that they tell us the center of gravity range and all that, but if they don't really give us a way to hit it, super easy. And yes, I am being very violent trying to pull this through here, just so you know. I could break that board. I don't want to break that board. Let's try turning it. It was just awkward the first time, so I was thinking maybe if I got lucky, I could do this a different way like I'm doing this time. And it's just not really working that great because I'm trying to get over that lip. Remember, this is a foam plane, so if you put a lot of pressure on here, you're gonna make marks. It's gonna look like crap. There it goes, got it through. Okay. You guys see what I did? Broke that little chunk of wood there, pretty annoying. Okay, we found our first sort of epic fail, and you'll notice that I damaged and marred the front of that because I had to hold it so tight to pull it through, but it's okay. I can just wipe it off with my fingernail and it'll be fine sticking into the receiver because the port is actually within the plastic and it's somewhat protected, but there ain't much length.
No.
Okay. So now that we've done that, I can hopefully slide this forward yet a little bit and I can work this up into the front, the nose of the plane. That is gonna definitely achieve good center of gravity, but let's test because definitely I don't want to use that terminology until I can actually say that it's going to work. Okay. We can switch the direction the ESC is going so that those pair up properly. You guys watch Brian Phillips RC for a reason. It's not because it's a short video. It's because we help you find success. If we helped you find success, let us know in the comments below. The back hole, it is good. It's neutral. Front hole, it's tail heavy. The middle of the holes, it's somewhere in the middle. And I don't think you can do a whole lot better than that. Now, that being said, this is maybe a vote against flap-rons because of those cables being so short.
Right.
But I kind of hate to give up on flap-rons over something so minor. However, we could just do an extension cord to get us back here. But then, of course, we're going to be putting more weight back here, care of putting the receiver back, okay? So let's talk about our options. These things need to plug in. That's easy. This thing needs to plug in. That's easy. Why? Because I can just slide back my battery. I can pull this out and I can kind of situate it however I want. Let's be honest. This is really not the holdup. The holdup is these two short cables. Okay. So if we need to do extension cords to reach back here, it's not really that big a deal, but you just don't want to pull on this real hard and accidentally unplug your motor.
Is that going to reach to the back though? Because you had that kind of up at the front so you can move the battery forward.
Well, can I put it up high? I wonder if I could put it up high.
The ESC itself?
Yeah, maybe. Because I feel there's a bit of a pocket up here.
Does the canopy?
No, it doesn't go. It only goes in a little bit.
Just a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, we could try doing that.
But then your ESC wire coming back to the receiver is like up in the air.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's just a bit of a pain. But I don't know that there's like really a great solution. It's just kind of the way it is, right? Don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know that there's a better way we can do it.
It's not going to reach though.
What's not going to reach?
The ESC wire isn't going to reach back to wherever the receiver.
Well, the receiver's going to be wherever these are if we're doing flap-rons. Or there'll be an extension cord. Okay,
Yep.
So guys, sometimes we go off on the channel. We don't do it to waste your time. We do it because we want you to understand how we arrived at a particular finding. So we're going to get out the bag of extension cords. I've got many, many more like this, but this is what lazy people do. They get the one that's the closest in their house, and then they find it. Now, you do have one cable that came with the plane. You could use that cable, as in the Y cable that came with it. But say you've got a bag like this in your bag of tricks, and you got all these Y cables that you've saved from other applications that maybe you didn't need. Here's an extension cord, but it's a male to male, so that's obviously not going to work, and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do is we're going to find one that works and come back and show you what it looks like. All right, so, okay, so I got a bag. The bag had some stuff in it. Short male to female extensions. Look at that, fancy, okay? So these are going to be something that's not included with your plane. And if you have them, great. These were purchased from Hobby King. I don't even know if they sell them anymore. But I can tell you this, you would only technically need to supplement one with what you've already got with your Y cable, because you could just use the Y cable for the other. Or if you're anything like me, you've already got the bag out, you're just gonna use 2 short extension cords, okay? So these extension cords are gonna definitely glean what we need to glean, which is extension, okay? So I've got yellow pointed toward the camera crew here. So I'm gonna plug this in, and that's the one that I really kind of foobarred a little bit. And so hopefully we won't have any issues. Of course, I don't need this battery in the way to do this now. We'll plug the easy one in first, okay? So the yellow is toward the camera crew, and this will be the first of 2 extensions. Okay, press that in. Okay, that'll extend us back to where the receiver is gonna fit. And then same thing here. We've got the yellow toward the camera crew. We'll clamp that down. Ordinarily, we wouldn't clamp it down, but this one's gonna be kind of awkward because I already bit into that plastic really bad when I was trying to pull it out of the wood. Boy, that's really awkward getting in there. Got to kind of squish the plastic back down. It's unfortunate the way that got squished. There we go, okay. So obviously we want to make sure that we have good purchase, especially since we're so mean to that connector. Okay. All right, so there we go. So now we've got our left and our right. Now, full disclosure, if you do something like this with extension cords instead of the Y cable that's provided, you're gonna have a little bit more flexibility on your radio setup, but you are basically taking matters into your own hands. So you need to understand this is a decision that's more than just stick it in there and go with it. You might need to do a little bit of glue just to hold things together, or a little bit of CA, okay? CA works good for this step if you're concerned about those things coming undone. They also sell plugs that will have retention clips on them. They just get really big, okay? So on this one, because it's in an awkward spot, I am gonna show you how I CA them together in the event that I CA them together. And so I'm gonna use some Bob Smith Industries Instant and Instaset, okay? So I've got my kicker ready to go. That's a Pringles lid that's on the bottom and a place to stick my poker in. And that's so that I can unclog the tip, because the tip is always clogged, like 100% of the time, no matter what I do. Yes, I've tried everything, okay? I'm gonna clean off this tip, or clean out the tip rather, by poking it with this model hobby pen, okay? That knocks the schmutz down into the opening. Okay, stick that back into the foam. And then I can take this, and this goes just like this. It's very, very basic process. And you can see, even after having cleaned the tip is still not clean because it pushed the particulate right back up to the end, and that's probably going to do it. Now there's a little bit of schmutz on there. I might try to use it. Nope, it's too much schmutz. Okay. So just a little bit of CA like that. Now you could just let that set up, but because we're working and we're trying to film, I don't want to get this all over the place. So I'm just going to touch the end of the CA and let that set up near instant. Okay. That's enough to resist the temptation to undo itself when we're in the process of doing the radio setup. Now, same thing here. I'm going to go a little bit heavier. You need to go up with the light, please. Thank you. Okay. So you see, I did a little bit more on that one. That was intentional because that one's the one I sort of foobarred. I'm going to set it quick so it doesn't drip into the wiring. Okay. And that's going to cook off the CA. Now, one tip, when you're done, squeeze a little bit of the air out. And then if you have a napkin handy, wipe the tip to clean the outside. That will help. And then apply your cap. You notice I took some of the air out. That'll create a negative pressure, and it usually does keep it closed somewhat. Okay. So that's where we use CA. And I suggest that you might consider doing the same. If you have to do that build strategy and you've got China glue only, you can actually put a little smear of China glue and then just glue them together. It will resist undoing as well, okay? So now that that's set up, we should be able to run these to wherever our receiver ends up being, okay? Now, all things considered, this plane is built. It is in one piece. We're gonna take a second and clean up our tools and we'll come right back. All right, so we have to decide between a 630 and a 631. This is like a couple bucks more because it's got the external antenna. This has an internal antenna. It's supposed to have just as long a range. I don't know if I buy it, but the 630 also has end pins, meaning you slide them in this way instead of sliding them in that way. This plane, I'm not sure if it's gonna matter because of the nature of the way the battery is gonna load. I probably actually want the top pins instead of the end pins because I'm gonna end up going in this way. That being said, you could either do the 630 or the 631. It's probably fine. A 630 for a plane like this will make sense. If you do a 637T, it's gonna be quite a bit more expensive and you're gonna add the telemetry for the battery, but I just don't know that it's necessary on this type of plane. This type of plane, you're gonna set the timer, you're gonna respect the timer, you're gonna land. It's a belly lander, so like if your battery dies, you just land it wherever it is. Or you just go up, use up your altitude, fly efficient until you get back to the home. Okay, so we're gonna go 631, I think, on this one. Again, that's a matter of opinion. 637T would be fine, it'd be a good choice because then you're gonna still get AS3X Plus and you're gonna get safe. So if you guys are brand new to flying, if you don't know the difference between safe and AS3X, AS3X is a stabilizer, which helps to reduce the impact on your flying performance of environmental impact like wind, thermals, rotor, things like that. But safe is called sensor assisted flight envelope, and that is going to auto level the aircraft, as well as there'll be AS3X running at the same time in most conditions. You can set it up however you want, but that's the way we'll set it up. So artificial 3-axis stabilization, also known as AS3X, is AS3X Plus now. And basically the plus just means that there is some added benefit. It works a little bit better than it did in the past. And surprisingly, there are some features that it works really good with. And then there's other features in a plane like this. I don't think it's gonna be like an earth-shattering difference between plus and not. But just so you know, if you have an older version of a 631, you should be able to update the firmware past 3.xxx to get into the AS3X Plus feature set without having to upgrade the hardware, okay? Just so you know, okay? So we have this. I already know how this is gonna plug in terms of the throttle. So it's gonna go on port 1. How do you tell where signal is? Signal, and then plus, and then minus. So in this case, signal is white. So we can go to port 1. Now, if this is an Aviation SE, you could also do port mapping and you could use the bind port to plug in, but you have to do some different reassignments and it's not really necessary and we don't need the additional channels because if anything, it'd be nice if we had an AR420 or something like that because right now we have the AR400. Is it a 420?
410.
We have a 410.
Non-stabilized.
Yeah, the 420 would be non-stabilized. So you could do a 620 or you could do a 410, and the 410 would give you plenty of channels because you have throttle, elevator, rudder, and ailerons. Of course, since we're doing flaperons, we have to add another channel. So we're gonna be using 5 total channels, okay? So the 5th, of course, would be throttle in this case. Now there's gonna be a left and right aileron, so we're not sure how that's gonna lay out, but do you know which one's first?
Right aileron would be channel 2.
No, you only know that because you've memorized it.
Oh, well,
Let's
yeah.
show the people how we figure it out. So now we have to make a profile in this, and that's gonna tell us where to plug our stuff in. So with respect to the way this is gonna go, we're gonna turn on the transmitter. We're gonna hit cancel and back. We're gonna go add new model. We're gonna create an acro. I shouldn't have to hide that because they've already seen that.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Okay, so model select's already done. Model type, that's already selected, which is an acro. If you change that, it'll reset everything. Model name, so this is model 10, colon, space, and then you're gonna type in whatever this is. This is called the, it's on the paperwork.
The Brewster F2A Buffalo, but I don't think we're gonna put all of that on the name.
So this is the Avios or Durafly.
Durafly.
So it's called the
Buffalo.
F2A. So we'll type it in and come back. Okay, so F2A Buffalo 920 millimeters. This happens to be a V2, but I'd never had a V1, so who knows what it was. Okay, so aircraft type, That's where we're going to set the wing type. So it's not a normal. For us, it's going to be either a dual aileron or flaperon, but we want the flaps menu, so we're going to do flaperon with a normal tail, okay? Then I'm going to go down to select image. I'm going to change from the standard file to something that looks similar, which is probably going to be like the P47. Wouldn't you say? Mm-hmm. Okay, so then there's one other thing we need to set up. We're going to set up flight mode. You don't have to do this, but it's handy. So I'm going to set up switch D for this. Then I'm going to set up these different things. This is the part that's going to be displayed to you as the end user on the screen when you're in normal flight mode. So I'm going to type the word AS3X, and then we're going to come back. Okay, so artificial 3-axis stabilizations, AS3X. And then we're going to go into the spoken part and get it to say that. Okay, so it's way down here, AS3X, and then you can test. And then this one's going to be off. So I'm going to highlight cancel. Cancel clears it. So OFF is easy enough to spell. We'll just stay live while we do this. And just so you know, I use the legacy keyboard. You may not use that. You may have to scroll it in a little bit different. And off is also a lot higher, so we'll just stay live for this. Off is right. Where is off? There it is. Okay. And then this one's going to be safe. Now remember, these are just labels. This is safe, so sensor assisted flight envelope. And if I didn't already say it, the AS3X is actually AS3X Plus, but it's all right. You get the idea. We'll pause. All right, so we're almost there. And there's safe. Okay. Okay, so that's the audio event and the displayed value. Now, channel assign, we're going to change. Gear is okay. We don't really care. It's not being used, but we'll leave it there. And then we'll change this, unassign that. We do want rotary knob attached to something. Aux 8 is just as good as anything else. Remember, this is actually a 20-channel receiver, and there's only 6 pluggables, technically 7, but we're not using the 7th in this case because we're not doing any port mapping to reassign that bind plugin. You'd have to also be using an Avian ESC. So we're going to be using the stock ESC in here, okay? So then walking back out, we can see we have a lot of things to set up, rates and expo. We're going to do the easy way, which is setting up switch F to control all 3 axis. I'll show you how to do that right now. We've got 5, that's going to be the most touchy. Then we have 10, that's where we're going to start. And then we have 20, which is also going to be where we drop our rates down to 90%. If it's too touchy here, we have more soft sticks and lower rates. Or if it's not touchy enough, we can go up here. But that's going to be all tied for all 3 axes. So it's easy as an operator. If you guys don't agree with me, just do it the way you like it, because this is a highly subjective matter, rates and expo. But my suggestion is keep the rates as high as you can and still get the job done, and just scroll in a little extra expo if you want to make it as easy as possible. All 3 axes are going to be tied to the same switch, you'll notice, as I just did. And what that's going to do is that's going to make it so as you're flying, you don't have a pilot fatigue moment where you are like overwhelmed by a bunch of stuff and you end up crashing your plane on the way to flipping 3 switches, okay? So they're all set. We're not going to mess with differential yet. We might play with it at some point. Throttle cut definitely is going to be set on switch H. Look, it said -100. As I move the throttle stick, it's moving. So it's inhibited. You know why? Because I highlight and then exercise the switch. Highlight and then exercise the switch. Acknowledge by clicking the scrolly wheel. Now you can look down here. It says -100. It's clearly working. Shut it off. And now you can see it's working, as in the throttle is working. Throttle cut's now on and tested. Okay, that's one of the most critical safety features you can do. Remember, safety features are throttle cut and battery management. Safe batteries are less likely to burn your house down. Don't burn your house down, okay? All right, be careful. All right, flap system, we're gonna make an assignment to switch B, but we're not gonna really set anything up yet because we don't know how we want it to work. We don't know what direction it's going to go, but we do know it's going to be about a 2-second deployment speed, and we know a little bit about what direction, but we will come back and set that up after a bit. All right, so timer's cleared. Let's set that up. Let's set our timer for, why don't we say about 5 minutes. We're going to activate anything over 25% to start the timer. It's going to run until we hit clear. At 1 minute, I want a voice call out. At 20 seconds, I want nothing. At 10 seconds, I want a voice countdown to a tone and vibrate at expiration with a tone every minute thereafter. We're going to walk back out. As I move the throttle past 25%, it starts the timer. I can cancel and it'll reset. Okay, throttle cut's on. Scroll over to monitor. Throttle cut is working. We're in a position where we can also tell where to plug things in. So channel 1 is throttle. Channel 2 is right aileron. Channel 3 is elevator. Channel 4 is rudder. Channel 5 is gear. Channel 6 is left aileron. Now we know, okay? Remember I said we had to find that out? Well, we had to do all that other crap too, so we might as well get it done at some point. What better time than the current? All right, so guys, continuing on with this build, we're gonna look. Throttle's on 1, we already know, so right aileron's the second one. We don't really know which one's which yet, but we'll find out pretty quick if we get it right. We can either plug this in right now, or we could plug into an XBC checker. I think we're just gonna plug it in. And then the left aileron, which would be the other one, is gonna go into the other port, which is channel 6. And I'm gonna plug this in. Okay, so that's plugged in, and we'll test what the orientation of those plugs is after we fire it up, okay? But in the meantime, what's next? We have elevator on channel 3 and then rudder on channel 4. So elevator on channel 3. We're gonna bring this up under, pull the cable through, and then do a half twist so that we can get the orange going forward. And then same thing here, I'm gonna actually grab that from underneath, pull it up, and then give it a half twist so that the orange is going forward. And then you'll notice that we have all the oranges or whites going forward. Okay, very good. And then that ESC is kind of tucked off to the side now. As you can tell, it's sort of going to be difficult to keep that up front. And I don't know that we're gonna be able to do a whole lot better than that. So now we have to figure out where we're gonna orientate our receiver. I'd like to put it lengthwise, but that's not gonna make very good sense. So I'm gonna put this antenna down in the hole here, just because that gets out of the way, it's unlikely to get damaged. And I'm gonna straddle the wires for both of my servos in such a way that that gets sort of out of the way. It's actually kind of fighting me, so I'm gonna try again, just trying to get this to go back here. Now these are sleeved, so I don't have to worry about them hitting. So really it doesn't matter once we get this back. It's not a dual antenna, so I don't really have to super duper worry, but you wanna protect the last 28 millimeters of that. That's the active portion of the antenna in a DSMX environment, okay? A spread spectrum technology environment, okay? So I'm gonna take these 4 steps and I'm gonna very carefully walk this back as far as I can walk it and just make sure that that gets out, but you can see it can also come out the bottom, so you wanna be careful that it doesn't do that. Now, this is taking up a lot of real estate here. I'm not crazy about it, but the truth is, I could also turn it sideways. You can run this in whatever orientation you want, and we'll deal with that in a minute. I could also put it vertical, which would be unusual, but we can do it. I am tempted to just go sideways, but then you can't interfere with the sweep of the servo, so I think I'm gonna have to go here. And you guys are gonna notice that this is now in the way, which is no big deal because get this. I don't have to leave that there. There's no rule that says I have to keep that all the way back there. I'm gonna grab the X-Acto knife though, so I get a nice clean cut. And I'm gonna cut this because remember we need that battery to go forward anyway, so I'll just cut a little bit of this out. Nice clean cut, like I said. Okay. Oh, there's actually embedded in there, there's a rope. Look at that. Wow, I didn't even know that. You see that? That was crazy. I had no idea. That's pretty cool. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I can peel that out of there, and that just becomes either garbage or some people are concerned about vibration transmission into their receivers. I've never really been of the mindset that it makes a difference. But if you wanted to, you could stick this on the bottom of here and you could use that as like a double-sided tape. And then you could glue it down, or you can just glue it down, or you can use the double-sided tape. It really doesn't matter. I promise you it won't make a difference. But if you want to use something to make you feel better, go for it, folks. It's your plane. You get to do it how you want. So we're gonna use China glue again. We're just gonna pop the lid. We're just gonna do a big smear of it right here. And on this application, I'm gonna slather it around a little bit, pop it up and down a few times, and let it cook off for just uno momento, okay? Then I'm gonna come up here and just slather a little bit more onto the actual receiver on the corners. And you see all those strings? That gets annoying. If you're not careful, it'll make a giant mess. So I'm gonna quite literally have the camera crew hold that for just moments while I put away the glue, okay? Now guys, here on Blindfold Star, so we wanna give you guys the full process, not because we want this to be overwhelming to you as a new pilot, but because we understand that you probably need help. And so we show all the steps because there are people that, believe it or not, can't figure out a lot of this, or they can't put it all together, okay? You might have some history with RC and you might be just coming back to the hobby and you just need somebody to give you a starting point. So when we talk about things like spread spectrum technology and DSMX, we will talk about what that is. This is a DSMX receiver, which is an air receiver. This is a DSMX transmitter. They're both transceivers, to be honest, because they both transmit and receive data. That's how the telemetry works, okay? So now that that's been sitting for just a minute or two, it should be enough to hold it in position. Now, the tempting way to do this is to put it forward, but I don't think we have enough length. So we're gonna go backward, meaning it's gonna point, the antenna is gonna go back. Okay, we're just gonna stick that down. And believe it or not, it's getting pretty dang close. And here in a few minutes, we should be able to literally pick up the airplane by that, if we wanted to, okay? I'm just gonna tuck this down in here. Now there is another trick of the day you can do to protect your antenna. That would be to secure it to the board like this. Or even better, I think I'm gonna tuck it up under the board so it doesn't pop out one of those bottom holes during a belly landing and get ripped or damaged. So I'm gonna just reach in here, grab this and slide it up under if it'll go. That's good enough for me. I just don't want that to get tangled up in anything like these two control arms that are gonna be moving around with the elevator and rudder movements. So if you want that to stay put and you're frustrated because it keeps moving on you, you can quite literally glue it in position. We do this from time to time. This one's kind of driving me nuts. Ordinarily, we don't have to do this, but we're gonna do it on this application just because it's been kind of driving me crazy. I'm gonna just slather a smear of glue right where I want the antenna wire to sit. I'm gonna let that kick off for a minute, and that's gonna allow it to get tacky. And then once it's tacky, I'm gonna press it into the glue, okay? It's not quite tacky enough to stick in there, but I'll just go ahead and stick it down and see if it stays. I doubt it will. It's probably a little bit too fresh. And as you can see, that's where it's gonna hold it. That's gonna protect the wire from getting caught up in these moving parts, okay? And you're like, but Brian, it's gonna be moving around. It's gonna be, you know, pitching and rolling and doing high G maneuvers and all that. Sure. But that spot's not gonna move. And that's the spot that matters because the rest of the tail is down where it's not gonna interfere with those moving parts. Even in the most crazy environment, I don't think I could see a condition where it's gonna pop up into that spot. Now, second thing, we've had a minute or two for this to sit here. We're gonna just press it and move it. Yep, it's still moving a little bit, not unusual, but that's gonna be fine by the time it's all said and done. Now, I'm not crazy about the way the wires are routed, but I think we might be about as good as we're gonna get on the wire cable routing, okay? And that's just the way it's gonna go for now. So I'm gonna take all these wires and I'm gonna stuff them down here into this little side channel. There's a channel down here. Now that's just luck of the draw that we happen to have access to this channel. It's not like there's some rule that says there's gonna be a channel for wires. It's almost never the case that there is a channel for wires to slide through, but I'm gonna take advantage when possible because that's gonna help us to do a little bit better cable management without too much effort. And remember, cable management is more about the ease of loading and unloading your battery every time you go to fly a plane than it is about the perfection or the look of it, in my opinion and experience. I just want to not have to fight every time I use a plane, because it gets to be in a real pain in the neck if you have planes that are hard to load the batteries in and out of, okay? You also notice the antenna is sitting still now, okay? One other thing I might do that would be helpful is just a couple of zip ties, one of which is probably all we're gonna do. So I'm just gonna grab these Knipex cutters. Somebody got these for us as a gift. That was super nice. Those are expensive. Thank you guys. I don't ever get Knipex tools, but I know a lot of the maintenance guys I work with have them. Especially the grabber. What do they call that tool? I forget what they call it, but it's like a crescent wrench, like sizable wrench combination sort of thing. Super popular. Okay, so now all I'm doing is just pulling this back so that I can tuck it all together into a nice little bundle. It doesn't need to be anything super fancy. We just want to keep it so it's not a pain in the butt to load the battery every time. And then we'll clip this off nice and clean so we don't have to worry about it cutting our fingertips as we load the battery. All right, guys, so this plane is really dangerously close to being done, and yet it's still not done because we have to set up the rest of the radio system, which should just take a few minutes. We're gonna take a minute, pause, and clean up. All right, so we're gonna put the battery in. Throttle cuts on, throttle sticks down. We're gonna be binding next. We have to verify the direction of the travel of all of our surfaces and a variety of other loose ends. It should be a pretty easy process though. We'll walk you through it step by step. See that? Now that the ESC has moved, we can really get this thing up there further. We might need to put another piece of shelf liner in there potentially. But if that's the case, we'll mention it. But for now, let's go ahead and just get this thing in there. Okay. I do not like the way that that strap works. It works poorly. It's not a good size for what we're doing, okay? Now, note where my arm is. If this thing starts, it's gonna hurt me. So I'm gonna trust it to not start, and I'm gonna brace my arm against it so it's got nowhere to go. It could still cut me, okay? Because I'm plugged in. If in doubt, don't put your arm there, okay? A couple things about how I'm gonna do this now. It hasn't armed the ESC. I'm gonna press this bind button. It's gonna go into a fast flash. I'm gonna click with the scrolly, and I'm gonna go down to bind, and I'm gonna go to yes. Okay. All right, very good. Now we're gonna wait, and we're gonna assume the worst, that the ESC is gonna start and start spinning, which it shouldn't, but if that happens, we need to be prepared for it, and that's the way we're gonna do it, is hold the plane. Okay, so far so good. It hasn't done it. I cleared my timer. Elevator up, elevator down. Cool, it's the right direction. Roll left, that is correct. Roll right, it is correct. Now you'll have to also be careful. You have two servos. You could have them backward, but so far so good, okay? Yaw left, yaw right. Okay, so we gotta switch that. Servo setup, click, travel, scroll over to reverse, rudder, switch, there we go. Yaw left, yaw right, elevator up, elevator down, roll left, roll right. Okay, very good. So we've got movement in the right direction. I did hear a weird noise, so I wanna flip this on its side and look at this servo as we move. Okay. Roll left, roll right. Okay, so it's overdriving the servos slightly, so we'll want to be careful about that. It's either hitting the front of this thing or it's doing something else, because we were not overdriving before, okay? So a couple things to check on. We already know the direction of travel is correct. Camera crew's gonna hold still. She's gonna hold still. Left, right, left, right. Elevator up, elevator down. They're all going the right direction. Now we need to go through forward programming. Excuse me, we're gonna go through flap system first. So flaps, when deployed, nothing, then something. I don't know what direction we want them to go. Oh, looks like right, okay. So we'll go to like 15. And then we're gonna go to like 50. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps. And then we know for from experience that this elevator, now turned from the side, needs to go up when these deploy. I don't know how far, so we'll just test. Yep, so that's going down. That's the wrong way. We're gonna clear that and go to like, let's do -6, okay? Can you come here, please? That goes up. Now, I want it to go up even more, so -10. So it's a small movement, but you can see it moving, okay? So that's important because when your outboard ailerons go down, it's gonna give you a pitch down moment, and it's gonna make you wanna go down like that. So the elevator is gonna go up to counter it by a factor of about 60 and then about 100%, okay? Of the correction factor, okay? So take off flaps, landing flaps. Everything looks like it's working good. Now let's see if they're still moving in the correct direction in each mode. So there's takeoff flaps, roll left, roll right, very good. Landing flaps, roll left, roll right. Okay, very good. All right, so now what we need to do is throttle cut is on. We're gonna go ahead and put the canopy on. Get your first look at this operational plane. Let's go ahead and test the throttle so we know whether or not we can trust this. So we're gonna walk out of the menu. Throttle cuts off, plane is secured. All the way up, all the way down, no movement. Throttle cuts back on. We have to find out why. It might not have armed because we might not have been low enough to 0. So we're gonna quickly just double check. Yep, my throttle channel is in port 1. The white is going toward us. We're in the correct orientation on the plug. Also, we can tell because we're powered up. That's where we get our power from, the battery eliminator circuit or the BEC. It's built into the ESC. Throttle cut is on. It is now off. Throttle up, throttle down. Listen, click down. 1, 2. Listening for the arm. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And all I'm doing is just going down on the trimmer for the throttle. 9, there we go. So it just armed, okay? Now it's working and it's going forward. Okay, so throttle cut's on. You'll notice that throttle cut has this still spinning, okay? That's because our throttle cut is not bringing us below 0. Throttle cut is now off. Throttle stick is down, is gonna qualify for less than 0 right now. So in monitor mode, you can see where we are. We're at -104. Okay, so there's 2 things you can do to fix this. The easiest way is to click and go into throttle cut. Change the throttle cut to minus like 106, okay? Because remember, we already have the trimmers set. So throttle cut is currently on and it's not spinning. Throttle cut is off. Okay? That's a lot of power. Throttle cut's back on, okay? So we know that we have this in a safe condition, but I don't like the way that works. So what we're gonna do is we can also reprogram the throttle range, but for the sake of this aircraft, we're gonna just show you what we did and that's good enough. We'll leave the trimmer down a little bit. Just understanding that we did that is fine, okay? So that being said, the next move is we're gonna click, we're gonna scroll down to forward programming. We're gonna jump into forward programming. We're gonna gyro settings, first time setup. Make sure all your crap's set up, as in all the servos are going the right way. Set it level, hit continue. Put it on its nose, hit continue. Now your throttle cut is automatically gonna be deployed in this menu, and that's why it's so critically important to have that set correctly, because look at that, that's the way we have it set in there. See that? That's the orientation, okay? So we'll just hit continue. Gain channel apply. We did not set the gain channel, it was already set for us. The gain channel for us is gonna be the rotary knob. So it looks like it's already set to aux 5 there. So you can't just exercise this one. So I'm gonna click and see if it'll take it. It did, very good. Ah, dang it, I accidentally scrolled. There we go, so we'll hit next. And then we'll apply. Now listen, it's gonna reboot. You're gonna see dance. Oh, look, exit to main screen or return to forward program. One dance, because we have AS3X active now, okay? It's only active once you give throttle. We're in the menu of forward programming, so it won't automatically start running. That's good. So we're gonna go back to gyro settings, AS3X settings, first time safe settings. We need to set a flight mode channel. What channel are we going to use? I don't know. We didn't actually set one. So I'm just going to go to channel 9 and I'm going to change the input to either switch D or scroll all the way back and you can't find flight mode. Why? Because we didn't set that. So I'm going to go back to next. I'm going to walk all the way out of the menu. I'm going to click and I'm going to scroll down to system setup. Now I've got my hand on the plane. Why? Because sometimes when you exit the menu, the throttle cut, see what happened? That's why we're going to address that in a minute, because the throttle cut is currently not set for the fail-safe, okay? So that's dangerous, but let's set our channel assign first because that's what we're in the middle of. Okay, so channel assign, I want to set it to channel 9. Look, it carried it over for us. That's fancy. That's not what I want to do though. So I want to change it to switch D, or I want to click and scroll all the way to the left to F mode, okay? So that's on channel 9, aux 9. Okay, now that it's live, it's working again, okay? We're getting a nasty glare, so you can move over here, okay? Something's on the counter, sorry. All right, so the next thing we have to do, it's pretty critical, is go back into forward programming, and we're going to go to gyro settings, first time save setup, FM channel. Look, F mode. It already carried it over from that menu. Gosh, we have a nasty glare. Sorry, we're gonna come back over here like we normally do. Okay? So there we go, F mode. So that's gonna work. We're gonna continue because we already set it. So it looks like flight mode 1, flight mode 2, and flight mode 3. That's the mode we want for safe. Okay, so look at this plane. It's going slightly uphill, but not by a huge margin. So I'm just gonna rotate it down a little teeny bit, and crap, I just knocked off my exhaust port. Look at that, guys. You remember I was talking about how the paint is not gonna cause you problems? Well, evidently that paint is very easy to rip out. So guess what I'm gonna do? Watch this. A little bit more China glue, and that's all it's gonna take, is just another little slather of China glue right on top of the paint. Okay? And yes, I am going to fix the throttle, guys. Don't worry, I'm not gonna forget. The throttle is kind of a big deal, but I gotta get this thing done so that you guys can follow along to a certain extent. I do not like that that thing is calibrated so far off. Okay, so now I'm gonna level, model, and capture attitude. Look at that, we're really close to even, okay? So now go to the other side, show them it's nice and level, both directions. Okay, now back around. If you need to make a manual adjustment, you can do it. Next. Okay, so safe is gonna be on to self, level, and angle demand. I'm gonna open the limits all the way up to the top range. That's gonna allow you to go up as much, down as much, left and right as much as possible. And then we're gonna go next. Now, if you'll excuse me for a second, I need to be able to secure the plane. And I'm gonna hit next because it's gonna commit this. Next, and apply. Okay, so it's applying the changes. You're gonna see two dances. Chip, 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 chip. It's asking me, exit or return to forward programming. Return to forward, one dance, then two dances. That means safe is active, but not necessarily on. Well, it's on in this case. So at this point, we have safe on, we have AS3X on, but we gotta figure out the throttle thing first. So let's walk out of the menu. Okay, so here's how we're gonna do this. It's very easy to do this on most ESCs. Okay, throttle cut is currently on. I'm gonna unplug my battery, okay? That's gonna de-energize the plane. It's safe now. Throttle cut is on. I'm gonna turn off throttle cut. I'm gonna put the trimmer back to neutral for throttle. Then I'm gonna go down to throttle cut and I'm gonna change that from minus 106 back to 100, which is the standard one, okay? Now, throttle cut is off. Throttle is all the way up, and I'm gonna plug this in with the safe condition, so I don't have to worry about it. If it were to start, it wouldn't hurt me. Okay, where to go? We're gonna let this start arming. We're gonna listen. We're gonna listen. We're gonna listen. Stick down. Now it's on. We just retrained the throttle range. Okay, so now throttle cut is off. See how it goes? As soon as I give throttle, throttle cut is on. See how it doesn't? Good. Now it works. Now we can trust the throttle. Shutting off, we're gonna rebind this plane for failsafe. Shouldn't matter because we reconditioned it to be 0 through 100% throws, but I'm gonna go ahead and plug this back in. Well, actually, I gotta think about this. I'm gonna turn off the model. This will be just a little quicker way to do it. I'm gonna turn off the transmitter. There's 2 ways to do it. Then I'm gonna plug this in. Now that that's off, I'm gonna plug this in. It will fail to arm because it doesn't have any signal. Then I'm gonna press and hold this, put it into bind mode, forcing this to respond to a button press for bind. And it didn't do it, so I'm gonna go ahead and click and scroll down to bind and just rebind this way. Yep, it's still in bind mode. So I hit bind. Okay. So now we're gonna listen. It armed right away. That means that we did get everything through and it relearned the fail-safe condition, which is stick down, because it's the same as throttle cut now, okay? So now everything should work. We should be able to trust this and it will be safe and we don't have to worry about getting our hands cut. Throttle cut's off, it doesn't start. Throttle cut is off and we can feel throttle and then it goes to a stopped condition. And as you can see, it's just tractoring, which is what we want. Okay, very good. So throttle stick is down, throttle cut's on, timer's cleared, it's reset. Now we can finish up what we were doing in AS3X and safe setup and forward programming. Sorry guys, we don't hardly ever have to do that. I'm gonna try to do this. Gyro settings are all set up. AS3X, this is where you would change your gains if you wanted to. 40, 50, and 60s, the default, we'll leave it that way. And then fixed adjustable, it's already adjustable. How is it adjustable? It's adjustable I'm sorry. Where is that? Is that under F mode setup? Oh, well, let's finish up this too. I'm sorry, guys. We will come back to verifying the adjustability. Okay, so you see it's self-level with angle demand. Then AS3X is active. We're going to turn that off. That's our off setting. Then AS3X is active. AS3X is off. Safe is on, and AS3X is on. Okay, pretty cool. So now you can also go to safe settings, fixed adjustable gain, and it's fixed. That's usually what you want on AS3X, but you can also change this to adjustable so that you can adjust even the AS3X when you're in safe. I wouldn't recommend it for a beginner, okay? Where is that? System setup, gain channel assigned, that's the other gain channels. Oh, it looks like that is the first one. Okay, so that's all axes are tied to just this one. So like if you had sliders, you could also change it to different things, okay? So that's already set. So what we can do is we can go into gyro setup, AS3X settings, and we can change the gain settings, sensitivity from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, or excuse me, to 4, or we can leave it at 1, and we can do this system setup and do an orientation check under utilities, gyro response test. Super easy to test here. You don't have to worry about the prop starting because it is going to definitely lock it. You see just in moving that, the rudder moved, and it's moving to resist the movement of the aircraft. Look at the elevator. It's moving to resist the movement of the aircraft. Regardless of gains, they're really easy to see. Aileron up, aileron down, very good. Aileron up, aileron down. Now remember, you've got takeoff flaps, you got landing flaps. Let's see if it still works. Oh yeah, correct way, correct way. Now correct way, correct way, correct way, correct way, correct way, correct way. This is cartooned up so you can see it really good. That's not how much gain you're gonna have in normal functioning mode. So if you wanna test it in the normal functioning mode, you'll go to AS3X settings, change this up to 4, and then just turn your knob all the way up and we can see if it changes. Yep. Changing, definitely going the right way, definitely going the right way, definitely going the right way, definitely going the right way. Now, wiggle it, look, knob, all the way down, 50% of the way, all the way up, same amount of movement with my right hand, all the way up, off. AS3X, off. Safe. Watch this. Gains to the middle. Trying to find the quickest route to level with the ailerons. Now look at the elevator. Trying to pull out of a climb or out of a dive. That's about where it's going to fly for level. If you're pointing uphill, it's going to try to come out of a climb. Pretty cool, huh? So now you know that all the control channels are going in the right direction, but we don't want to be at 4x. That's way too much. So we'll change 4x back to 1x. There's also a 0.5 and a 0.25. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it to 1x. Yeah, it used to not work. Remember that?
Yeah,
it used to always scroll around. Okay, so very good. So now we're going to walk out of the menu. We're going to listen for arming. If anything changes, nothing changed. We're good. Throttle cuts off. There's throttle over 25%. Throttle cuts back on. And now we can check. Everything is working. Everything is working. Everything is working. Full landing flaps, still working, still working. I'm just looking that it resists whatever direction I'm going. Still working, still working, still working, still working. This plane is set. It's ready to go. We're gonna just verify elevator up, elevator down, roll left, roll right, yaw left, yaw right. This plane is set. It's ready to fly. It's gonna do all the things we wanna do. And I'm confident that the motor is not gonna start and cut my hand off, which is always handy, pun intended. So at the end of the day, hopefully we answered all your questions on how to completely and exhaustively set this model up. It was not as easy or as quick as I wanted it, but it wasn't too bad. This build was pretty easy actually. It's just a lot of extra steps that could have been avoided if they would have built them at the factory that way, and that's always a complaint we'll have. Also, no LEDs. We complain about that on a lot of planes. This is a cheap plane, so it makes sense. And it looks really good. I'm excited to fly it. I think it's gonna be super fun. It feels
2 minutes.
should be easy to hand launch, and we may even turn on hand launch assist, but to be honest, just turn on safe, throw it, it's gonna be good. Guys, thanks for supporting Brian Phillips RC. Buy these things from the links in the video description below. If you got any value, smash the like button, click the bell for notifications when you do subscribe. There's so much more right around the corner, literally. And we love having you here on Brian Phillips RC. Other ways to support us: YouTube members, YouTube super thanks for one-time donations, YouTube members, Patreon for membership as well, and then PayPal if you don't want to give them lots of fees, that's cool. Safe is set up, AS3X is set up. We've talked you through stabilization, we've talked you through checking the direction of throws, we've talked you through all the mechanical installation on this plane. We've set up everything short of thrust reverse, up to and including programming the throttle range for the ESC. There isn't really that much more that you can do on this plane, except for maybe set up those things to go up instead of down if you prefer that type of flight envelope. My suggestion is see how it works with flaperons. If you don't like it, just literally change the values and then flip the elevator to go the other direction and it'll do it. So hopefully that's all the questions answered. If you have more, leave them in the comments below. But don't forget, when you buy from the links. That's how we make a few bucks in commissions from these planes when they get sold. But at the end of the day, if it's not right for you, check out brianphillipsrc.com or bprc.me. Also, you can find supplies like China glue there, and we'll help save the day, hopefully. Because remember, we want to stop one and dones, and we want to do it telling the full truth, okay? So get you out of the chair and into the air. That's what we do, starting at A and ending at, hopefully not a crash. That's all we got for you today, the Buffalo from Durafly. Good job, Hobby King. These planes are coming out nice. Guys, thanks for watching. Come back for more.